after 9 years of working in the family business. My dad promised I would be the company owner, but then my girlfriend confessed she was unfaithful and had set a wedding date with my golden child brother. So my dad decided it would make more sense for brother to run the business since he's finally getting his life together, unlike a sore loser like me. 6 months later, Dad called me in tears because the authorities had taken his house, all thanks to the mess selfish brother created, but I laughed in his. My family life has always been complicated because of the way my father is. A couple of months ago, I, male, 43, lost everything I had in life, everything I had worked hard for. My fiancée left me. The family business I had been involved in for almost a decade was snatched from me and I was suddenly left with nothing. In hindsight, that proved to be a blessing even though it didn't feel like that at the time. And all those who say karma is a bitch are right because it took just 6 months for everything to come crashing down. I have a younger brother, Aiden, 30 male, who is the apple of everyone's eye in the family. It has always been understood in the house that Aiden is the favorite child. Mom had a complicated pregnancy with him and he was a very weak child for the first 2 years of his life. Because of these medical complications, he was always considered more special. My parents never tried to hide or mask their favoritism. I was the older one, the responsible one, and anything and everything Aiden did was excusable because he was just a kid. That's why he has stayed an arrogant, entitled, obnoxious brat his whole life. Because of his nature and our parents' coddling, Aiden and I have never been close. We were too different and he had an easier life than me. Deep down I resented him for it. I went to college out of state and kind of lost touch with Aiden. We used to talk maybe once in a while, but neither of us knew what was happening in the other person's life. I worked really hard through college because Dad said he wanted me to get involved in the family business. My dad had set up this company that makes closets and chests. It's not a huge favor, but we ship to a lot of states and the money's good. Dad always wanted me to take over eventually because I had shown interest in the business. I knew that even if I did all the work, I would have to share it with Aiden sooner or later, but that didn't bother me because I liked working for Dad. Once I graduated with my management degree, I started working for Dad straight away. This was a little over 9 years ago at this point. Aiden was not at home. He was in college and had no interest in learning the business, so he stayed away for a couple of years. During this time, I met my now ex-girlfriend, Avery, female, 29. We hit it off and started dating soon after. We were together for 6 years. During my time at the company, we expanded both production and distribution and profits increased by almost 30%. Dad was really happy with my work and it felt like I was finally getting the recognition I had worked so hard for. A year and a half ago, Aiden came back home. He had been getting money regularly from Dad and had taken a huge sum to start a business of his own, but I think he blew through all the money and didn't have a penny left, which is why he came running to Dad for help. Things were tense between Dad and him for a while, but I knew better than to interfere. I knew that no matter what he did or how badly he screwed up, Dad would always be willing to clean up his mess. Within a few weeks, everything was back to normal. Dad asked him if he wanted to help me with the business, but he wasn't interested. Instead, he was allowed to just sit around and do nothing. This is when things started going downhill. I used to be busy at the office and Avery had been coming home for years at this point, so it was probably around then that she and Aiden met and started a fling behind my back. Nobody knew this was happening, even though my father didn't outright condemn it once it came out. I know for sure he didn't know Aiden was involved with my girlfriend. I trusted Avery too much to suspect anything, and even though I knew Avon was a brat, I never thought he would do something like this to his own brother. I was wrong on both accounts. I found out when Avery tearfully told me she was pregnant. Initially, I was happy, but then she said there was a huge possibility I wasn't the father and that it could be Aiden. It didn't go smoothly, and honestly, I don't have it in me to repeat everything she said. It took a lot of coaxing to get her to admit who the other person could be. When I found out it was my own brother, I was furious. We had a physical fight and by the end, we were both battered. All of this happened at the house. Mom and Dad tried to intervene and get us to stop, but I was blind with rage. Aiden himself didn't know Avery was pregnant and he was mad at her for telling me. Both of them insisted it was a one-time thing and that there was a huge chance the baby was mine. I was done with Avery though, and there was no way I could move past this. Everyone tried convincing me otherwise, saying it would stay in the family and that I didn't need to throw away the relationship for a stupid mistake. But I didn't budge. To me, it wasn't a stupid mistake. Even if the kid was mine, I wouldn't have stayed with her. The resolution my dad came up with was something nobody could have anticipated. I think it was his last-ditch attempt to strong-arm me into normalizing things. But he proposed that Avery and Aiden get married since I was so sure the baby wasn't mine, and as a result, Aiden would get the company along with Avery. This didn't make sense to me because Aiden didn't know how to run the company. I think Dad thought Aiden would say no to marrying Avery, but to everyone's surprise he said yes. None of us could fathom why he agreed. but now it's becoming clear. After that, everything was a blur. I moved out immediately and have been no contact with the family since. My mother strongly opposed the nonsense Dad and Avon were trying to engineer, but nobody listens to Mom anyway. Avery and Avon had a shotgun wedding 3 weeks later, and that was the last I heard of them until yesterday. All this while, I've been in hell. It's been 6 months since my life came crashing down. If I say I'm doing well, it would be a lie. I'm trying to cope, but it's tough. I've been left stranded both personally and professionally. I spent so many years working for the company. I essentially have no other experience and now I have to start from scratch. I did get a good job at a rival firm. I had no ethical issues trading business secrets because, well, why not? It's not like I'm going back to my family anyway. Dad made it abundantly clear that since Aiden was the one getting married and taking on a more responsible role, it made sense for him to get the company. I was furious when he said that, but little did I know their little fantasy would come crashing down so soon. Last night, I got a call from Mom. She sounded very upset and I couldn't help but talk to her. She's been the only one to take my side even though she cuddles Aiden a lot. Moreover, she has respected my boundaries even though she tried to stop things from spiraling during the Aiden-Avery fiasco. She's been caught in the crossfire unnecessarily and I feel bad for her. Mom said Dad wanted to talk to me and begged me not to cut the call because they were in a bad place. She said I had every right not to help them and it took a lot of courage for her to call, but she would understand if I didn't want to talk. Curiosity got the best of me and I decided to talk. It had to be serious if Mom was behaving this way and honestly I wanted to see what kind of screw-up Dad was in. It was my turn to revel in his misery, just like he rubbed mine in my face months ago. What I found out was literal music to my ears. Dad was weeping on the phone, begging me to come back and save his company because Aiden had ruined everything and Dad didn't trust him anymore. Apparently, once Aiden and Avery got married, Dad tried to teach Aiden the ropes of the company in the hopes that he could replace me. Aiden tried hard, according to Dad, but gave up as soon as he got comfortable in his position. All this time, without anyone's knowledge, he had actually been siphoning money off the company. The accounts department tried to flag suspicious activity, but all the files went to Aiden himself, so Dad didn't get to know anything. God alone knows where all the money has been transferred to or what Aiden has done with it because it's nowhere to be found and he refuses to take accountability for anything. Dad said that he didn't even have a shred of remorse for what he had done. He had also taken loans in the name of the company. I have absolutely no idea why Dad gave him so much financial control, but well, what can I say? And all of those loans are unpaid. The authorities have taken possession of their house, and at this point, the 4 of them, Avery included, have no place to stay. Many employees have resigned because salaries have been unpaid for 2 months now. Moreover, they hate the working culture because they had tried to inform Dad about discrepancies in the accounts a couple of times. But Dad always told them to go to Aiden and was just unwilling to hear anything about his precious son. So now the company is a shell of its former self. They have lost a lot of money and Dad has no way to get out of this crisis. By the time he finished talking, I knew where this was going to go. He asked me to come back and join the company and also asked me if all 4 of them would stay with me because at this point, they had nowhere to go. I told him that none of that was happening. He had dug his grave and now he could lie in it for all I cared, but I was not helping him out. I told him that I had spent 9 years working for him and he had just taken that away from me on a whim for no reason except a sick power play. This was his punishment for being hard on me and for being horrible to me my entire life and no, I did not feel sorry for anyone. I told him that he could go and rot in hell for all I cared and take his golden son and my cheating ex with him. The only person I had room for in my house was Mom and I told both of them that she was always welcome, but I would never ever allow Dad to come near me again, let alone set foot in my house. He tried to gaslight me and manipulate me into letting him stay, doing everything in his power to make me say yes, but I didn't budge. I had had enough of his and there was no way in hell I was letting that man decide for me. I had wasted 9 years of my life with him and had gotten nothing in return. He deserved this misery, as did Aiden and Avery. I don't know where they're going to go, but I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't interested in knowing what happened to them. But I know that if I let myself go down that spiral, there's no coming back from it. Dad had bet on the wrong horse and now it was time for him to face the music. I wasn't going to run up there and wipe Baden's mess like before. I was done with the entire family. Things have gotten worse for my family. They have nowhere to go and even though I haven't spoken to Dad since that incident, I have been keeping in touch with Mom. She tries not to talk much about what they're going through because she feels I shouldn't be concerned with it, but I can't help but feel bad for her. I told her that she could come and stay with me until Dad sorts his mess, but she said that Dad wouldn't allow her to come and stay with me because I am not talking to anyone else in the family. She said that it would feel wrong to save her skin and leave them struggling. I told her I got what she meant, but that she was always welcome to stay with me. Today, Mom called me up and told me that Avery has left. There was no note except a small "don't contact me," and Aiden hasn't even bothered to go looking for her. Dad is furious with him and is seeing him for the complete and utter failure that he is for the first time in his life, but all of that is falling on deaf ears. Dad doesn't suspect it yet, but Mom thinks Aiden is going to go live with a friend for now, or that he's making some sort of arrangements for himself and is going to sneak out from this mess when the time is right. Honestly, I had thought that I would feel amazing when I saw their downfall, but somehow, I really don't. I had never thought that things would get so bad so soon, and I feel bad for whatever has happened. I don't give a rat's about Aiden or Avery, and the only person I'm really worried about is my mother. I am planning on bringing her home because I can't let her suffer because of her husband and her son. I don't know if she's going to agree to come or not, but I do know that I will try my best and even force her to come if it comes to that, but I will try to get her to come home to me. Aiden, I know, is going to run. That's what he's always done, and that's what he does. He came home for the money, and now that he has squeezed every single drop and milked everyone dry, he is going to run away. That's what he is best at. That just leaves Mom and Dad. Dad, I know I'm not going to help. I am more than willing to be there for Mom, but I have no idea if she's going to come without Dad or not. I know me not getting Dad along with Mom will cause a lot of drama, but I am willing to tolerate all of that. I just don't want my mother to suffer any more than she already has. I know it has been a long time since I've updated, but shit has gone down in the family and I'm out of this drama for all time to come. Right after my last update, I forced my mother to come and live with me because she was miserable. I told her that if she had to suffer and feel bad, she could very well do it from my house rather than do it homeless. She was resisting my efforts because she didn't want to leave Dad behind, but I got her nonetheless. I think that was my biggest mistake. I should have taken her no for a no. Aiden left soon after and there was no news of Avery anyway. The initial adjustment with Mom was a little tough. Dad kept calling her and she kept declining his calls, and while I knew it affected her, I also knew that this was for the best. What I didn't know was that this was their plan all along. A week into her moving here, she came to me sobbing. She said she had a horrible dream about Dad being in danger and that she just had to talk to him once for her peace of mind. I was reluctant and against the idea because I know Dad is a manipulative piece of, and I knew he would try to convince her to talk to me and let him stay, but Mom was in a pathetic condition and there was no way I could stop her from talking to Dad. She called him up and I don't know what happened or when it happened, but she seemed better after the call. The thing about my family was that when I had left home, I had initially crashed at a friend's place for a while and then rented my apartment, so nobody knew where I lived. I had wanted it to be that way because I didn't want more drama in life. Getting Mom in the house was potentially dangerous, but I trusted her enough not to spill the beans to anyone. I was wrong and I have learned never to trust anyone again because everyone I trust betrays me. 2 weeks ago, I had Dad at my doorstep. I had no idea he was about to come, and had I known, I would have kicked Mom out as well. And he came into the house when I was at work. By the time I came back home, Mom had let him in, tucked him in, and all his stuff was unpacked. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw both of them sitting in my hall. I entered, saw them, sighed and went out to blow off some steam. I knew this was going to be long and hard and I was too angry and shocked to say anything for a while. I drove around for an hour before I came back. I didn't utter a single word because I knew it wouldn't have gone anywhere. I just started packing Dad's stuff. He got up and started yelling at me, and in my own home, too, that this is not how one should treat family and that I needed to take care of them in their bad times. I tried to ignore him, I really did, but after a point, I exploded. There was a lot of yelling and name-calling, most of which was so brutally rage-induced that I don't remember anything I said. I'm just thankful I didn't end up throwing hands because I was dangerously close to it a couple of times. Mom was crying in the corner, begging me to rethink and just let Dad stay for a few more days, but I said I was not having it. I packed his stuff and started packing Mom's stuff too, and that was when she realized I was being serious. She said they would leave the next day and that I couldn't throw them out in the middle of the night. I told her I could, and that was what I would be doing. I packed all that stuff, and all this while, Dad was trying to physically block me, so the packing took a lot longer than expected. By the time I was done, it was close to 2 a.m. Mom kept on saying she would leave first thing in the morning and to just let them sleep here for the night. I didn't want to say yes, but I also couldn't just throw them out at 2 a.m., so I told them that before I was awake the next day, I wanted the two of them gone, and if they ever tried contacting me again, it would not end well for either of them. Dad chimed in and said he had an offer for me. He said he was willing to give me a 51% stake in the company and that he wanted me to rejoin so that we could work as partners again. He said it was much better working as a boss than working on someone else's salary. I told him there was no way in hell I was going to join a sinking company. I told him I knew the real reason behind why he wanted me back. Both he and the company were screwed and he had no other way to crawl back from the hole that he, or rather Aiden, had dug. What Aiden had done was a monumental mess and none of his old employees were there to help save the ship. I said I knew this was not a peace offering or an offer for reconciliation. It was an egotistical offer of a failed but arrogant man who did not know what else to do to save his own. Dad's ego was bruised and he started yelling at me, but I told him to shut his trap or I wouldn't even give them the mercy of 6 hours in the house. That shut him up real quick. I hadn't expected it, but by 8:30 a.m. the next day, both of them were gone. I blocked their numbers the moment I woke up and saw they weren't here, but I knew this was far from over and I was right. It has been 2 weeks since they left and Dad has come home every single day to talk to me and get me to consider his offer. Every day, he dresses even more shabbily. Maybe to elicit an emotional response from me, but I'm done with these games. 2 days ago, I told him that I had been gracious about the entire situation for the longest time, but now he was getting on my nerves. I said I would call the police and get a restraining order against him if he didn't cut the crap. I was done playing nice and if this didn't stop, I would stoop to his level and play some offense. And with a record like that on his profile, there was no way he was getting any of his reputation back. He told me I didn't have the guts to do it and I told him he knew very well I had the guts to do not just that, but a whole lot of other things. He left after that and hasn't been around for the last 2 days. I don't know how long this peace is going to last, but I am going to cherish it for as long as it does. I expect he'll send Mom in a last-ditch effort to get me to dance to his tune, but it's too late for that now. I trusted Mom and that turned out to be a mistake, so now anything she says won't make a difference to me in the least. This is done and dusted from my side and I cannot deal with their problems anymore. They have given me enough issues to last a lifetime and I cannot take on anymore. I hope this will be my last update and I think I will be left alone for a while at least. I'll update you guys in case anything happens. To all those who are expecting a dramatic update, I'm sorry to burst your bubble because nothing of that sort has happened. There has been no dramatic revenge for Avery and Aiden, and I haven't found someone I fell head over heels for in an instant, like it happens in the movies. And I'm relieved. My parents have stayed away mostly and that makes me wonder if I was patient for too long and should have actually told them off and threatened them with police action weeks ago. My dad tried emailing me, but I haven't responded. He can't do much else because both he and Mom are blocked everywhere. I have no idea where Aiden is, but I did get a message from Avery. She told me she had given birth to a baby girl. I had thought I had moved on, at least in part, and that this news wouldn't devastate me like it did. I think in the last few weeks, there was so much going on in my life that I didn't have time to think about Avery. It's not her that I miss as such, but rather the fact that she has now started a family, one that she and I dreamed about, stings a lot. I know. I'm not the father and she knows that too. She asked me for monetary assistance for the baby because Aiden wasn't responding to her texts or calls. I didn't reply to her because even though I am weak and vulnerable at this point, I cannot legitimize what she did by helping her out. She decided to cheat on me and she decided to keep the baby, so now she can face the consequences of her actions or go to friends for help. I am not her friend and I will not be helping her out.